All right, here we are, Win the Day podcast, where we get together every morning to talk about how you can win the day, especially if you're a real estate agent, real estate sales, but it's basically anything. Now, we're super lucky today because we have a guest in from Montecito, California. Well, he's not in. He's on from Montecito, California.
Modesto.
Oh, excuse me, Modesto. My fault. Modesto, California. It's he's up early, and I still get it wrong. But yeah, we're fired up to have Aaron West on here. He heads up the West Experience, and he's a professional speaker. They do a whole lot of real estate, and he's really good. Aaron, tell us a little bit about you. You know more about you than I do.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I've been friends with Julie for many, many years, and she asked me, and I feel honored to be a part of your guys' show. I've been in real estate since 2005. I have a team of 13 in Modesto. We're one of the top small or mid-sized teams in the state of California and have been for the past for 5 to 10 years. I don't even know how long. We don't really keep track of that anymore. Been coached my whole life. I'm in a couple of masterminds where people talk about wealth and goals, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I used to be a triathlete. Now I just do crazy stuff every once in a while instead of all of the time. And yeah, I'm excited to be a part of your guys' little morning mashup.
Love it. So here's what we got. The main reason why Aaron's here is he's really into goal setting and how to create goals that actually move you forward and you can do some things with it, which is always vital, but it's really vital in a tight market. And I know some of you guys are doing great, but most of us are having slower years just because the transactions are down. But my belief is we're about to enter into the greatest real estate cycle ever, literally ever. So get your goals. This is and the time of year is perfect, right? Get your goals aligned such that you can take advantage of the next cycle. And the cycle being, 12 to 15 years, but you got to start now. So Aaron, go start and we'll jump in or whatever you need.
I love the name that you guys have for your show, Win the Day. Right? And win the day is the bottom of the funnel when you are talking about goals. Most people start this time of year and they spend, and I'll ask you guys a question. Are you all goal writers? I know Julie does, Destiny, Mark. How much time do you spend at the beginning of the year? Do you spend setting your goals?
Go ahead, guys. Julie?
I will probably take at least 4 hours of putting it together and then refining it over the course of a few weeks.
How about you, Destiny?
So I've started now actually writing my goals for 2025, probably giving it 10 to 15 minutes a day.
Okay. And Mark?
Yeah, I will block out a day, map it out, get an idea and chunk it down.
And John?
I spend probably a week, not 100% all in, but a very strong week in October, usually, where I lay out the next year, where I have a pretty good idea by the time January hits, and then I stay with it literally daily.
Okay, so and that's a pretty wide range what you guys have just said right there. In my experience, and I've been teaching this for a long time and have talked to literally hundreds of people, most people spend between 2 and 6 hours getting themselves ready to write goals or to write their goals for the following year. And I had someone bring this to my attention once, and it really impacted me. Have any of you woken up and I know you're realtors, so the answer is yes, but have any of you woke up in the middle of the night and gone, oh my God, I forgot to call that person? Like out of the blue, 2 o'clock in the morning. We've all done that, right?
100%.
The reason for that is because our brain is always working. We have these different parts of our brain. We have our conscious mind, which is what we're using right now, having this conversation, thinking about what we're going to say. And then we have our non-conscious mind, which is the super highway of our brain. And it's where your brain takes everything you possibly can, it can, and makes it automatic. So if you spend 4 hours, and the stat's going to kind of blow your mind, but if you spend 4 hours writing goals, and your brain is always on, there's 8,760 hours in a year. So 4 hours divided by 8,760 is 0.0004% of the year is what you are spending, or what the average person is spending, on telling their brain what is important to them and how they want to lead a life by design. And when you think about it that way, 4 hours is not very much time for you to say, this is what I want to accomplish in my life. And I've been really fortunate to be around some people who have mastery in goals. And it has become one of my areas of core mastery. And while I'm thinking about it, the book Atomic Habits is a great start for people who are thinking about goals or thinking about creating systems in their life to change their life. And so when you start writing goals, understanding A, how the brain works, and then B, how to write goals that actually impact the brain, move the needle, and that your brain finds realistic. Because quite frankly, most people write either wishes or goals that their brain knows have zero chance of success.
Hey, Aaron, can I ask you something real quick? Why is it, do you suppose, they don't spend more time?
Because they don't understand the impact that goals have on your brain.
Do you think they know how to do it?
No, they don't. And it's not something that's really taught. I mean, this is years of different people, and then doing the practice before I have the ability to talk to people about it in a way that they can understand. The mistakes that people make, and I'm just going to start with those right off the bat, is first they write, everybody's heard SMART, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, with a time frame. And running a marathon in 2025 is a SMART goal. Would you agree? It's
sure, 100%.
Measurable to marathon. It's achievable or attainable, realistic with a relevant, realistic with a timeline. The reality is, though, is that's not a goal. That's a result that you're trying to achieve. The goal is running 3 days a week, drinking 84 ounces of water, getting 8 hours of sleep, stretching for 15 minutes 3 days a week. Those are all weekly goals that, if achieved, and one of my favorite quotes ever is, writing good goals is the ability to predict the future. So writing good goals is the ability to predict the future. So when you write goals, there's the understanding that there's a difference between results goals and behavior goals. And then once you understand the difference, neither one is wrong, but you need both of them to really put yourself on a path towards creating an inevitability with your goals. So that's one of the mistakes, is all they do is write results goals. Sell 25 houses, buy one investment property, put $1,000 away, be a millionaire, be a better dad, be a better mom, be a better husband, be a better wife. Those are all goals that I hear every single time we sit down and someone starts talking about goals. Those are results goals, and then they just stop there. They say sell 25 houses or sell 10 houses, and that's their goal for the year. When the magic starts to happen is when you start digging deeper. So Destiny, what is a result that you would like to achieve this year? And it can be personal. Are you married?
No.
Okay. It can be business then. So what kind of goal would you like to achieve this year? Give me a result.
The result I'd like to achieve is to make enough to provide successfully for my kids.
Okay. So how much is that number?
That number would be more than what I did this year. So I would say at least 110, 120K.
So let's say 120K. So the goal is, or the result is, to make 120,000. So are you willing to do a little bit of a deep dive into this?
Love to.
Do you have a pen and a piece of paper?
I do.
Okay, good. What is it that you have to do to make $120,000?
Lots of lead gen.
Okay, so stop right. What does lead gen look like for you?
Nice.
Phone calls, conversations.
Right. Stop right there. Phone calls.
Okay.
How many phone calls are you making a week right now?
This week was not a good week, but typically I do I don't know the number of calls. I know hours. I do about 10 hours a week.
Okay, so you do, let's just say hours in. So you're 10 hours a week right now, and that didn't give you the level of success that you wanted this year, correct?
Correct.
So what is the number of hours that you're willing to commit to a week that you know if you do that, you're going to get to that goal? What is that number?
Probably going to have to double it.
So 20 hours a week. Now,
Yes.
let me ask this. Is that realistic for you?
No.
Okay. So the first mistake that people make is they write a goal that's not realistic. So if you are not consistently doing 10 right now,
Mhm.
to double that goal to 20 is not realistic for you to do it. So
Right.
what is the number that you could commit to weekly by which you have a better chance of achieving that result that you're trying to achieve?
I'd say 13 hours a week.
Okay. Now, most people would write a goal of 13 hours a week of lead gen. Now, I'll ask you another question. Is
Okay.
that a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly goal that you just gave me?
That's a weekly goal.
That's a weekly goal.
Yes.
So is it realistic that you are going to hit 13 hours every single week this year?
No.
So as soon as you write a yearly goal that says 13 hours a week of prospecting, your brain says, that's not going to happen. And your brain puts zero energy behind it because it's not a realistic goal. So does anybody have a calculator on your phone? Okay.
Yep.
Multiply 13 times 48.
All right.
624.
How much is it?
624.
So your yearly goal is 624 hours of prospecting. Now it sounds daunting, but the reality is that's 13 hours a week for 48 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do 40 hours in a week of prospecting if it was really important to you, correct?
Correct.
So when you miss a week in January, the middle of January, and you hit 8 hours instead of 13, have you failed your goal?
Not necessarily.
No, because you can make that up.
Right.
So your brain will still continue to give it energy because it's a goal that you can make up. You could be down 100 hours with a month left and make up that goal and win that year by doing 100 hours of prospecting in the last month. So now you've just written a yearly goal that gives you some grace that your brain can go to work on for the entire year. So other than the 13 hours of prospecting, what else do you need to do to achieve $120,000?
More open houses.
Okay. How many open houses are you willing to do a week?
2.
Okay. So that means you're setting a goal of 96 open houses. Are you willing to do 96 open houses?
Yes.
How many open houses did you do this year?
I don't know.
Okay. So there's a problem, right?
Right.
96 is a lot. One of the agents on my team did 70.
Uh-huh.
And she was doing 4 a weekend for the last 6 weeks to make up for it. So 96 is a lot of open houses. Let's pick a number let's just do, would you be willing to commit to 70 open houses?
Yes.
Okay. If you miss a month of open houses, can you still hit 70 open houses?
I could.
You could.
Yeah.
So again, now you've given yourself a number that you can track, that by doing 70 open houses, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to be closer to achieving your success, correct?
Correct.
Okay, what else can you do other than the open houses?
Networking. That's one thing I want to get into.
Okay, what does that look like for you?
Events, Chamber of Commerce.
How many events are you willing to do a month?
1.
One event a month. So 12 networking events.
Mm-hmm.
Write that down. What else can you do?
Door knocking.
Okay. How much, and this is separate than your phone call prospecting. So how much time or how many doors are you willing to knock a week?
How many doors? I would say 20 a week.
20 a week. So what's 20 times 48, Mark?
96.
Well, what is it? 20 times 48 is 800 and
Oh, 20 a week times 48.
960 doors.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
960 doors. Okay, and I'll stop right there. But do you see the difference in making $120,000 and then that list of behavior goals that you just set for yourself?
Absolutely.
Which one do you think gives you a better chance for success?
Behavior.
Yeah.
The behavior goals. So the taking the time, and a lot of times you need outside perspective, like me asking these questions. If goal writing isn't part of your mastery, you taking the time to say, what does that look like for you? What does that mean? Is this realistic? And what can you commit to are the things that you need to ask for every result you want to achieve. If John, you're married?
I am.
You are. Okay. How long have you been married?
22 years.
Okay. So we're going to do this as a rapid fire because I want to make sure we get through everything.
Ooh.
Do you want to be a better husband?
I do.
You better say yes.
I'm already pretty damn good, but yeah, sure.
Okay. So what could you do different from what you do today to show up as a better husband?
All right. If my answer or hers, I think if I spent more time concerned about her time, because I'm throwing, you know what I'm saying? If I got more engaged with what she's doing on the daily.
So listening to her, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. How many days a week are you willing to commit to intentionally putting your phone away and having a conversation with your wife?
7 days a week. I mean,
that's a lie. That's never going to happen. It's unrealistic. So how many are you doing now? Could you say, I'm sitting there intentionally having a conversation with my wife? And if it's one or two, we're just being real.
Let me think if I'm being honest.
No judgment.
No, I know. I'm just trying to think. Where literally it's almost like a date. We sit down and spend time wondering. Okay, two.
Okay. Would you be willing to commit to 4 days a week of taking 30 minutes where you are locked in with your wife? Your phone is away.
Yes.
Okay. 52 weeks times 4 is 210. So 210 times sitting down with my wife for half an hour, being intentional about having a conversation with her. What else could you do?
I could empty the dishwasher. Apparently that's a thing.
Okay. That's an act of service. So your wife, it sounds like, is a quality time and acts of service woman. How many days a week could you commit to emptying the dishwasher?
Let's go back to the 4 days.
Okay. So again, 210 times of emptying the dishwasher. And there are times you could probably do it twice a week.
Probably.
What else could you do? How many date nights do you go on? How many dates do you go on in a month?
In a month?
Yeah.
One?
Okay. If you're trying to
Julie, look at Julie. You son of a bitch. Now we go out for lunch a lot, but it's weird because she's in the business, so our lunches are business meeting. I mean,
so we're talking dates here.
Once.
How many dates are you willing to commit to with your wife a month?
How about one a month or one a week? So 4.
Okay. Is that realistic?
One a month? Yeah, I think I can pull that off.
No, 4 a month is what you
I mean, one a week.
Freudian slip.
So that's 52 dates is what it is. Okay. So you don't write it as 1 a week or 4 a month. It's 52 dates. That's actually a goal that my wife and I have. And we were behind. We went on vacation for 13 days. We went to Europe for our 25th wedding anniversary. Nice. And we had a conversation of we are behind on our dates. Every single night while we were on vacation, we went on a date. So
okay, can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Is this your goal or is it to both of you goal?
Let me ask you this question. If you showed these 4 goals to your wife and said, honey, I want to show up better for you as a husband. Here are the goals that I have. Would those be your goals or would she be 100%?
I think they would be our goals.
They would be our goals, right? Yeah. But who would get the brownie points for showing her those goals?
She would, but really me, right?
Right. So, but and again, just those 4 things. If you did those 4 things and tracked them, do you think you would show up as a better husband for your wife at the end of 2025?
No doubt.
No doubt.
100%.
And yet most of us write a goal of be a better husband, show
Right.
up better for my kids, those kinds of things, instead of saying, what are the things that I can do that are realistic, giving myself a yearly number to where if my wife and I are down by 8 in July on our 52 dates, we can actually move ahead so that we can hit that number of 52. And that's where writing the right kind of goals, the behavior kind of goals, changes your life dramatically.
It's such a big thing. It is, or the end is such a big thing compared to what the start is.
And you know, Ed Milet has this story, and I can't find it anymore, and I've looked for it, but he has this story of what he believes happens when you die. And when I read this, and I still sometimes get emotional telling this story, he said, and he's talking to a group of plumbers. It was a sales thing, and he was talking to plumbers, and he said, you know, I believe something different happens when you die than most people. I believe you go to the pearly gates, and St. Peter, whoever it is, meets you there, and he grabs you by the hand, and he goes, and the very first thing he does is introduces you to somebody. He goes, he grabs you by the hand, and he walks you over, and he introduces you to the person that you had the potential to be. And when I heard that,
How great is that?
oh, and he said, my goal is this. My goal is to meet that person, look at that person in the eye, and say, I've been chasing your ass my entire life. And for that person to look at me and say, well done. And yet most of us live lives where the outside influences control who we want to be and who we are becoming. Spending the time to write good goals gives you the ability to control who the person is you want to be. I show up very differently for my wife today than I did 5 years ago. As a matter of fact, we write 10 goals in all of the 6 gardens of our life. And number one for me for many years was stay married, which didn't go over that well with my wife. If I'm transparent.
To your wife.
Like, if I don't write it, that doesn't mean anything. So now I no longer write stay married. I write be a better husband. That's a result that I'm trying to achieve. But then there are typically 5 or 6 goals, and mine are 52 date nights, 1 marriage retreat with my wife, 3 books that we read together, 14 overnights with my wife. There's one more too. But anyway, I know that if I achieve those 5 things or 6 things, my relationship with my wife is going to be better. I'm going to show up as a better man. I'm going to be a better man for my wife. And I'm taking one step closer to becoming the person who I have the potential to be. And go ahead, Mark.
Well, and Aaron, I think there's within that is the evaluating as you're going along is ultimately we can do all these things. And yes, they should be things that lead to that result, but have that conversation. If it's in a relationship, is it getting us closer? Do we it's the evaluation at point, and how do we adjust it so that we're in it for the marathon? We can improve the next year, and tweak some of the.
So you're asking, is it working?
Yeah. Well, and you know, I'll say this. When you have that conversation, it automatically starts working.
It just does.
I mean, as soon as you have that conversation with your wife, and then if you really want the magic, John, you show her this list of things that you want to do, and then you say, what else could I do to show up as a better husband? And then you quantify it. She's like, gosh, if you could do the laundry like once a week, you go 52 times taking laundry out of the laundry. And I mean, my wife and I track everything. In full transparency, our relationship has gotten to the point where we track our intimacy. And we have a goal for the year of how many times we're going to be intimate with each other, because we understand that being intentional about it means that our brains are going to a place where we're doing this because it's important for us. And there are times now that my wife's like, we're behind. And I'm like, yes, we are, you know, and that's like after years and years of doing this. But for most of us, spending the time. And the other thing that I want to cover too, because I know is that we all have natural gifts, right? Some of us are naturally, you know, Brian Buffini talks about create, execute, finalize. I'm a create, execute person. I can come up with an idea, I get the ball rolling, and then it is painful to me. I mean, when I'm clipping hedges, I have to focus on finish this freaking hedge before you start the next one, because I love to create. My operations manager is execute, finalize. So when you are execute, finalize, which a lot of us are, coming up with the idea is very challenging for us because it's a muscle that we don't naturally exercise. It's a muscle that we don't naturally have. Most people are like, you give me a system, I'll execute it and I'll finish it, right? And so if you are one of those people, it's really important that you find other people to do goals with, because you can take from their ideas and their goals and go, that's a really good goal. Every single year when I do these goal writing events, every single year I come up with new goals because I hear something from somebody else. I'm like, that is such a good idea. I had one guy say, call my parents 52 times. What a beautiful goal to have, where you have intentionality now and you can track calling your parents. Do you know how many times most people talk to their parents in a year once they're an adult? It's once a month at best for a lot of people. And yet if you said, I'm going to call my parents 24 times, your relationship with your parents is going to get better, and you can actually track how you're doing it. So once you have all of these numbers goals or these behavior goals put into place, you start with the yearly, that's the big funnel. And I write 10 in every area of my life.
What are the areas?
Spiritual contribution, physical nutrition, health, environment, tribe, which is who are the people you are hanging out with, financial, physical and emotional, and then relationships, family, friends. So those are the 6 areas of my life. I will write 10 in each one of those areas, and then I will take the top 2 or 3 and move them onto my goal sheet. And that's my goal sheet.
I have a question, Aaron.
Yes.
I got spiritual, physical, environmental, tribe, spiritual contribution. Okay.
Environment, tribe.
Okay.
Personal growth
is the one I missed. Okay.
Yes.
Personal growth. And then emotional, physical, and relationships.
Yeah. Oh, now you got me messed up. Something like that. Once you throw me out of my,
I'm not in order.
It's hard to get back in. But anyway, and you could just Google online, what are the 6 gardens of life? And someone will go boom, 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 boom. And if that resonates with you, then you do that. So then I'll take those 10 goals and I'll pick the top 2 or 3 that I say, if I achieve this goal, I had a great 2025. So maybe Destiny, it's 120,000. You're putting the result that you're trying to achieve in that big bucket, but you better have all of the behavior goals written out so that you have a better chance of achieving that results goal. And then you track those behavior goals in a daily habit tracker. I have a daily habit tracker that has 13 daily habits that I do every single day, and not every day, but I track them every single day. And at the end of the year, I can tell you exactly how many times I worked out, how many days I drank a gallon of water, how many times I flossed, how many times I showed gratitude, how many times I journaled, how many times I meditated, because every single morning before I could take a sip of this coffee, which I broke the rule this morning because it's so early, I have to journal and I have to track those daily habit trackers. So a habit stack, which is what James Clear talks about, where he says, you find something that you do every single day. So if every single day you open your email, all you have to do is say, you know what? I want to journal before I open my email. So I'm not allowed to open my email until I journal or I start journaling. And then as you go to open your email, you're like, nope, I can't do it. And then you start journaling. Now you've habit stacked a habit that you want to do with a habit that is a non-negotiable that you do every day. And it could be brushing, it could be coffee, it could be whatever it is. And now you start creating these habits that you can track. So even though it's now a habit for me to do the journaling, I track how many times I journal, because there are days when I travel or that something's going on. But at the end of the year, if I journaled 300 times and I want to become the man that I have the potential to be, my goal is now 315 or 320 journals. And it means I've got to show just that much more intentionality to be able to continue to move the needle forward.
Right.
Aaron, I love that habit stack. I was a therapist for many years, and I used to talk to parents, and I'd say anything a child is choosing to do is a potential reward to get them to do what they're not yet choosing to do. And so we've all done it. Before you take another bite of French fries, take 2 bites of your broccoli. And so it's stacking that thing that, you know, we're eating the broccoli because we want to get to our fries. I love that.
Aaron, let me ask you a question. With your tracking method, are you using an app, or are you tactile? Are you doing tally mark somewhere? What is your tracking method like?
I have a Remarkable that I use that has a PDF of a habit tracker. And so at the beginning of every month, I number out the date attached to whatever date it is. And then I have my 13, and then I just copy and paste it every single month. So I can go like this every single month on my Remarkable, and it'll show me exactly what I did for that month. But you can use whatever it is that resonates with you. If you're a person that uses technology, then you can do it with technology. If you're a person, because I'm journaling, so when I'm journaling, I wanted something right there with me. So I journal in my Remarkable, and I put that in there as well. Now, a couple of other things that I want to go over just when it comes to goals is understanding how your brain works, so that when you write goals, you're consciously thinking about this. When you write goals, and we hear this all the time, my goals are right up here. They're right up here. There's so many studies that have been done that show that the physical act of writing a goal takes the information to a different place in your brain. It is a different activity that you're doing, and you're seeing it visually, you're writing it, and you're thinking about it. So all 3 of those combine to go to a different place in your brain. And there's 4 parts of your brain that are that have a part in goal writing. You've got your amygdala, which is what takes the goal and decides if it's important. Then you have another part of your brain that categorizes it and files it away. Then you have your non-conscious mind, which is what, when you do it correctly, your non-conscious mind is now listening for things that you do. And then you have your reticular activator. So when you write goals, what you're trying to do when you write them in a complete sentence, 52 date nights with my wife is a complete sentence. You want it to be something that your brain can actually just read and take in. It's not date night /52 or hours prospecting 280. It's 280 hours of prospecting is how you want to write it, so that it goes into your brain correctly. And so the amygdala, when it says, is this important? That's actually consciously saying, is this important? Then when you're writing it down, you're filing it. And then if it is important and it's categorized correctly, it goes into your non-conscious mind. And then the reticular activator is this little tiny part of your brain that when you are, we all know what it is. You may not know that that's what it's called, but it's when you buy the white Tesla, and all of a sudden you start seeing white Teslas everywhere. Or you're talking to your neighbor, and your neighbor says, man, there are so many little Frenchies running around our neighborhood now. And you're like, I've been here 20 years and I've never seen one of those little rats. Everywhere. And then you walk out the door the next day and there's someone walking 2 Frenchies, and then there's another one, and you're like, oh my gosh. So the reticular activator is the part that when we revisit our goals and look at them, it says, oh, this is important. The problem with the reticular activator is that it has ADD. So it only focuses on what's important until something else comes in and replaces it. I interviewed a good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, who is in real estate, but he's worth $175 million. And he's one of my mentors in a lot of areas, but when it comes to goals, because when I met him and I saw the intentionality that he put behind goal writing, I was like, there must be something to this, to have someone this successful doing this goals. But when I talked to him a few weeks ago and we were talking about goal writing, he said something that changed my goals for this year. He said, nothing changed my life more than when I looked at my goals every single week. He goes, I went from a 50 to 60% achiever of my goals to an 80 to 95% achiever of my goals the year that I said, I'm looking at my goals every single week. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that it went from 50 to 90 is because his reticular activator was working in at the same time that his non-conscious mind was. So he's like, where are the Frenchies? Where are the Frenchies? Where are the Frenchies? And the non-conscious mind is like, oh, I heard a little Frenchie voice way off in the distance right there. And now he went like this and goes, there are the Frenchies, right? And so that's what, another thing is just keeping your goals in front of you. And then one of the final things is you've got to find a group of people that you can share your goals with that hold you capable and accountable to, like, I'll share. Well, yeah. I'm going to tell a story and then I'm going to share the goal that scares the crap out of me this year. So I've had goals change my life a couple of times, like dramatically change my life. When I do my goals, and in this mastermind that I'm in, they have what's called a one sheet. And it is your life on one page. It has your net worth. It has, which I love talking about money if you guys ever want to have me come back on. It has your net worth. It has your how much your expenses are, how much you pay in taxes, how much you invest, how much you spend in charity, and then all of your goals in every area. And what happens when you get into this group is you're at a table with 3 or 4 other people who all have theirs as well. You get 8 minutes to tell your life, and then each one of them has 3 jobs. One is to honor the positive things that you've done. The second thing is to offer how they can help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And then the third is to call BS and poke holes in the stories that you tell yourself.
Love it.
And I was doing this in 2017. And one of the gifts of being able to write really good goals is that you also have the ability to write really good BS goals.
Oh, for sure.
That sound like amazing goals that are really just a checklist for your life. And life was going really well for me. I had started to build wealth. My team was doing well. My family, everything was really good. And I didn't want to screw it up. So I had my whole list of goals. I went through my one sheet. The first 2 guys were like, Aaron, that's amazing, dude. Man, those goals are so good. I've got nothing really to add to it. And I got to a guy named Paresh Mehta, who actually lives in Florida. Paresh, who to this day I will be indebted for the rest of my life. And he looked at me and he said, I smell fear in every single one of your goals.
Ooh.
Yeah, ooh, that's what I said too. If you guys ever watch Christmas Story, it was like fudge, except inside I didn't say fudge. But he was right, because I was writing goals that were not helping me become the person who I needed or who I want to be. And so I went back and I rewrote all of my goals that year. And every single year since then, I have one goal that scares the crap out of me. And this year we're December 19th and I still haven't done that goal. And my goal is to interview my dad for twice on video. Now, the reason that's scary to me is my dad and I for many years had an estranged relationship. We weren't ugly to each other, but there was just no emotional connection at all for 25 years. And we've recently reconnected. But for me to, and I can feel it inside of me right now, for me to go through the exercise of interviewing my dad on video and asking him questions about his life, that scares me. And so but I've told you, I've told every class that I've talked to about it. If I don't do that, then I am a false prophet of the highest order when it comes to goals. But I have people checking on me. I had people send me a list of questions and video, and one guy who's a YouTuber with 1 million people who's a friend was like, hey, Aaron, tell him that you're doing this for me and that I'm doing. So all these people now are pouring themselves into me to help me achieve this goal because I was willing to talk about it.
Love it.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, Aaron, size of the goal. Does that matter? Do you go big? Like Gary Keller's always like, create your goal here and then raise it.
So that might be your scary goal, but you can't do that with every single goal that you have. The goal is, if your relationship is at a 4, moving it to a 5 is a 20% improvement in your relationship. You don't go 4 to 9 because it's like The Biggest Loser, when that show, The Biggest Loser, the reason that it's not on anymore is because people made such dramatic changes that they weren't able to sustain them.
Right.
So if you have one goal that is the one thing, it's that big, hairy, audacious goal that you have, that's great. But the rest of your life needs to be, how do I go from a 6 to a 7 or a 4 to a 5 or a 5 to a 6, so that you have the ability to A, take the time to focus on that one, but B, have the intentionality in the other areas of life where you're becoming a whole life millionaire. I think most people, when they think of life, they think of it as an either or, when the reality is you can be wealthy, you can be a good husband, you can be a good father, you can be a good business person, you can do all of these, you can travel. That's the other one, Julie. Travel and bucket list adventures. So travel is the other one. You can travel, you can do all of those things, but you just can't do all of them by accident.
Okay.
And that's where writing goals comes into play, is that you
be intentional.
You can have intentionality in all areas of your life if you just spend the time at the front end and then do it quarterly and then go down that funnel. Right. Destiny, what was your question?
I was going to say, I didn't want to, Sherry asked a question earlier in the chat. She wants to know, she says, all of this sounds great, but as a beginner, what are the top things to track? All of this sounds overwhelming.
And probably as an agent.
So if we're going to talk business for a second, an agent, there's 3 things to be successful as an agent. And when you boil it down, it is literally these 3 things. So Sherry, you can write this down. It's skills, activities, and relationships. As a newer agent, if you are a newer agent, you don't have the skills and you don't have the relationships yet. So you have to go all in on activities, so that you can earn the skills and the relationships to be able to do less activities next year, less activities this year. So the things that I would focus on if you were writing goals on your business as a solo agent is, how many calls am I going to make a week, and make it a realistic number. My team, we have to do 100 calls, and it's hard for them to do that every single week. Some teams are big, but as a solo agent with no accountability, it's hard to do. So maybe it's 10 calls a day, 50 calls a week, which is 2,500 calls for the year. Okay, so 2,500 calls for the year. How many notes are you going to write to people? It's something that people don't understand, the value of a handwritten note and how much business comes from one of those. Could you write 5 notes a week? And just one a day, write 5 notes a week, and then track it. And if you don't do it, that's okay, but don't kid yourself that you're being proactive if you're not doing those things. How many open houses are you doing? There's no faster way to business than doing open houses. So you should make a commitment of at least 1 open house a week, and then track it. Have a little tracker where you're like, click, click, click. Oh, I'm behind. I need to do 3 open houses this weekend. So understanding that it's and then what skill building things are you going to do? Conversations are you going to have? If you're a newer agent, a really, really great goal is to interview 1 successful agent a month, take them to coffee. They will all do it. If you say, I would love to take you to coffee and learn about your business, and then you ask them, you have a list of questions, and it's okay to have it written out, sitting right there, asking them, what's the one piece of advice you would give a newer agent? Where's the one lesson that you learned? What's the one thing you say to every single client? Because we all have it. I asked that question of an agent, and she said, and she was a great agent, and this was really early in my career. She goes, I look at every single client and I say, what is it that you expect of me as your agent? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's really good. And I've literally asked every single client that I have worked with that question, 1,000 clients, every single one of them gets that question asked of them. So it doesn't have to be this overwhelming. I just gave you a business plan and goals that, Sherry, that you can now implement. That's not overwhelming. It's 4 things that you need to track. Yeah. That if you do those 4 things, you will be in the top 5% of agents every single year for the rest of your career.
100%.
And then you can do that in every area of your life. What I did with John with his relationship was a 3-minute conversation, and I gave him 4 or 5 things to focus on in his relationship, that if he does just those things, he's going to be successful. So it doesn't need to be this like, oh my God, I need to write 1,000 goals and try and track all these goals. I mean, that was pretty simple. And if you just live by that and said, okay, I'm going to do those 4 things, your level of success is going to outpace all of the other agents that are the same as you, because they don't have a plan.
And they're not consistently doing it.
And then, Sherry, find someone to be a partner with, and you don't want it to be a friend. Friends, spouses, relationships are not accountability partners. It needs to be someone that you don't know that well, that you say, will you be an accountability partner? And you may have to burn through 2 or 3 of those people before you.
Because you need honesty, right?
You need honesty. And when Sherry and I, or Julie and I are friends, and Julie says, hey, Aaron, did you do your calls? And you're like, well, you know, my kid got sick and I had to take the dog to the vet and all that. And she's like, oh, I understand. Instead of going, so what I'm hearing you say is you didn't make your calls, and you're going to make 15 calls next week instead of 10. Is that what I'm hearing you say? That's what accountability does, that a friend or a spouse or a partner or someone that you know well is never going to hold you to that standard of excellence that you want for yourself. It's not accountability. It's holding you capable to the standards that you're setting for yourself.
How about timing? Tell me about timing. Does it have to be January 1? Can it be whenever?
We're already in January. We've been in January. We have a New Year's Day party November 1 for our team. November 1 is when January has already started, because anybody that you meet after November 1, there's an 80% chance you're not getting paid on those people until January. And again, I'll go back to that Ed Milet example of becoming the person you want to be. Is there ever a bad time to start becoming the person who you want to be? Never. So if it's June and you finally go, I'm going to hit these goals, maybe you set them for 6 months, or maybe you set yearly goals in June and you're like, I'm June to June, or whatever that looks like. There is no bad time to start becoming the person who you want to be.
There's a great book, The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, and it's a fascinating book of these people from hell end up in the outskirts of heaven and having a conversation, and this person is dealing with an issue, and an angel is saying, let's deal with this. He said, well, let me go back and get a second opinion. Let me do this tomorrow. And he says, all time is now. There is no other moment than now. And it was just bringing that is do it today. Start.
And here's the thing, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's good.
The reality is this, and this is another conversation again about wealth, but me and a good friend do a show for this mastermind called 728. And we interview entrepreneurs who have gone from a net worth of $1 million to at least $10 million. And we've interviewed billionaires. I interviewed Richard Branson. But when we took a step back after interviewing 60 decamillionaires, and we started looking at the commonalities of what their journey looked like, there were really 7 lessons that we learned that helped them become a decamillionaire. And the first one was making a decision. That was the first one. Every single one of them made a decision. And the second one is it's harder than you think it is. And it takes longer than you think it does. So when you start going down this path of goals, or you start deciding you're going to become a certain person, the first step is making a resolute decision of this is who I'm going to be. If you're going to be a great agent, then you have to make a decision. I am going to do the things that great agents do. If you're going to be a great husband, you say, I have to make a decision to be a great husband. And then it's freaking harder than you think it's going to be. And it takes longer to get the success that you want, because anything worth having and that is great comes at a cost. Be careful of asking for wisdom, because wisdom comes from pain, right? So make a decision today or whenever, like, I'm going to do these things this list of 10 things with numbers attached to them that are complete sentences that I can track. I'm going to do these 10 things this year, and I'm going to tell everybody I know I'm doing these 10 things. And then I'm going to ask them to hold me capable and follow up with me and ask me, are you doing these things? And if they say no, if I say no, I have no excuse. I have to get back on it because I made the decision today that I am going to become the person that I need to be.
So something I would comment on, Aaron, is when you're asking people to hold you capable, just remember, you don't want the people who are always going to be nice to you. If you have someone who constantly gives you grace, and I understand grace is important in many, many areas, but when you're setting goals and trying to be held capable, accountable to your goals, not their goals, and they constantly give you a pass and say it's okay, that's not the right accountability partner. They have to say to you, oh, apparently this goal is not that important to you, or you've changed your mind, or they might ask a question. But don't get offended when somebody gives you an answer that you don't like. You need to look in the mirror and say, I'm asking for this. And you have to completely put this on your mind of, I want to receive, because if you're just, supporting me, you're not going to move forward. You need someone who's going to be honest and kick your butt and say, okay, well, it looks like this, you say this is important to you, but based on your actions, it doesn't appear that it really is.
Life is not easy. It can be easy, but easy leads to mediocrity and a new career if you're in real estate. Life is hard.
The Les Brown quote is easy now or easy later, or easy now, hard later, hard now, easy later.
And that's, when we started our financial journey of changing who we were financially, there was a quote, and I can't remember who's the guy who has the show that's debt free, all that.
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey was kind of the spark that kind of helped us. And he said, live today like most people won't, so you can live tomorrow like most people can't.
Yeah, so true.
I took 12 weeks off this year, and I still have a great life. I still made really great money because I lived a life like most people can't. And it wasn't without, it was like most people won't. And so we had a really great life, but it was on our terms, doing life the way that we wanted to, so that we could be where we are today and have the freedom to do all the things that we have to do today.
Awesome. Hey, so we should be coming up on it. We got about 8 minutes and we'll be at an hour. So let's start to wrap it up. Destiny, do you have any questions jumping out at you?
No, I am so full. This was really good. I got lots of notes I'm going to rewrite and get to work on today. This was great.
Julie, you have any thoughts?
I just want to say, I want to add something when Aaron talks about, living a life that most people won't. Something I know is when he first got into coaching, he had to make a decision. You and Jen decided to sell your house so that you could afford coaching, yes. Right? It was like when he says we live a life that most people won't, he's walking the walk. So, listen to what he's learned a lot from the decisions he's made.
Cool. Mark?
Yeah, I think about that decision, and it comes from the Latin word, which means to cut from yourself. And when you cut, when you amputate, you remove it, it's no longer an option. And that's when it gets serious. And my first marathon, I made a declaration on my radio show, I'm going to run a marathon. I made that decision. Even though I broke my leg in the middle of it, I still ran the marathon because I made a decision. And it's painful. It was painful, but you do it.
You do it.
So this is really good, Aaron. Thank you so much for coming on. One of the big things that we push here is we want realtors to earn commissions, income, such that they could take that income and invest it in assets that produce wealth, right? It's not the income we're looking for. It's the wealth that we're looking for. And it sounds to me like this is kind of a path you are ahead of us on. Is that fair to say?
I have lived a life and built wealth. Yes. I work now because I choose to, not because I have to. I don't have to work another day for the rest of my life. And it's because I choose to. And can I add one more thing? I know we're at the end, and this is for those that want to do more and learn more about goal writing, in January, there's a 4-hour Zoom course that I do for agents that's totally free. My ask is that you keep your eyes and ears open for anybody looking to move or move to or move from the Central Valley. And this is my gift to people with the hope that we become top of mind. So if you reach out to me via Instagram, I can put you on that list of people. There's usually between 100 and 200 agents on that Zoom call every single time that I do it. And we take what we crammed into today. It's actually a 2-day, like 14-hour thing that one of the ways that I write goals is 14 hours and then you're dialed. But this 4-hour one really helps you understand, breaks it out a little bit slower and easier, and puts you on the path to understanding how to write goals in more bite-sized chunks than what we crammed into the fire hose today.
I'll share the link in the notes here.
Okay.
I saw your sign up thing. I'll share the thing here. So can I get you back to talk about wealth building?
I would love to. It's the other core area of mastery for me is being able to talk about how most people's relationship with money comes from fear and understanding that, and then how I addressed it and how other people that I know that have built wealth from nothing have addressed it and mastered it as well.
So good. So good. All right, Aaron, you got anything else you want to add?
I do not, man. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Dude, this was great. This was great. Check the show notes. We'll get you how to get a hold of Aaron. Obviously, if you got anybody looking to move out his way, you should do it. But and we'll get him back on for wealth, because really, you guys, setting goals, earning income, super great. But I'd encourage you to create a wealth goal such that you can live a life you want. Right?
You bet.
All right, guys. Hey, Aaron, thanks. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Hang on, guys. We'll finish out with you. End stream.